welcome to another edition of PaynePoints of Interest. I'm Sarah Harbuck, and with me is Michael Payne, and we are going to tackle a question titled, Customers Who Take Advantage. It says, hello all, a friend of mine owns and runs a cafe that has become a very popular place in her town. It has grown into a small community center of sorts and is enjoyed by many. They've started a program for free meal vouchers. Customers can purchase a ticket or a voucher for a free meal for those in need, and the vouchers purchased are pinned to the board. Anyone hungry or unable to pay for the meal is welcome to use one of the vouchers from the board, no questions asked. It has truly helped some people who are kind, courteous, and respectful, but it has also attracted some rather rude people who are taking advantage as well. Some have paid no attention to the rules and have disrespected employees. Others have painted graffiti or even stolen property on at least one occasion. My friend and her staff are frustrated and do not wish to take away the charity program that helps so many unfortunate people, but at the same time are uncertain how to address those who are taking advantage. Does anyone have any ideas? Well, I imagine for a lot of local mom and pop kind of food establishments, if they wanted to start something like that, I'm sure that's a concern. How do you keep it from being abused?
Yeah. I mean, and actually the abuse that this user listed is not the kind of abuse I was expecting.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
To address the idea of the program, it's a great idea, you know, and it's needed in a lot of, especially in bigger cities and things like that. So kudos on that.
Yeah.
The second thing though is what gets me is there's one really, really simple way to solve the problems that the user's talking about.
Okay.
Move the board behind the counter.
Yeah.
Like if your problem is you've got people who
just randomly come up and steal.
Yeah, they're coming up, they're taking a voucher off, or they're doing that, right? Take it off from the public space and put it in somewhere where an employee has to be able to get to it, right? The problem with it is that, it does create a scenario where somebody has to come up and actually ask for a meal voucher,
right,
which may be a very difficult thing for someone to do, to admit to.
Right.
You know?
It's shameful. It's embarrassing. Yeah. So you create that problem where people won't use it as much, perhaps, if it's behind the counter and they have to ask. Mm-hmm. Although if you're pretty desperate for food, you probably will swallow your pride a little bit and go ask, I would imagine. Maybe not.
And the other half of it is it would take a bit of swallowing of pride to pull the voucher off the board and hand it to the cashier to begin with. True.
Some people have no pride at all, or no shame.
And so I think that moving it behind the counter would still alleviate the problem, and the people who actually need to use it would actually use it. So that's the simple answer to that. I was actually concerned of the other idea that people are coming in who don't really need the meal voucher, but they're taking advantage of the fact that it's up there.
How do you know who you can trust to let them do that? You know,
and to an extent, sometimes you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, think back. Well, Will Smith was in Pursuit of Happiness. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, right?
Yeah.
If he was in a situation where he needed a meal, right, while he was trying to get that job, you wouldn't know from looking at him in a suit doing these interviews that he was in a desperate situation.
Yeah.
And it really ought to be, if someone has the chutzpah to come up and ask for a free meal voucher, just like they said, no questions asked. Mm-hmm. You know? Now, if the cashier notices that same person coming in day after day, using it in that case, I'd take it more to a relationship standpoint and sit down, have a conversation with the person, and figure out what's going on and how we can help better than just a free meal.
Because we can't just assume that all down on their luck people are dressed in rags and are dirty. Some of them are actually out, like actively trying to pursue a job, and so they're going to try to put their best foot forward and put on their nicest clothes and be clean, and so owning a business similar to the one in question here, there's that you don't want people to take advantage of other people's generosity. At the same time, who am I to judge?
Right.
So as a person who has never really been in a position to have to do that, to go and ask for free food, I'm not going to judge somebody who's come up to me and handing me a voucher and going, I need this today, okay.
Okay.
Or maybe you forgot your wallet and it's somebody who has the money and will come in the next time and pay for his and buy an extra voucher to replace it. So you can't put too many rules on something like this. If you're going to be generous, I think you just need to be generous and not really have too many hoops that they have to jump through in order to get it. I do think you're probably right in maybe putting it behind the counter or have it establish a system that's a little less free-for-all if you're that worried that it's going to be abused. But I think you have to just make the decision as an individual and a business owner if you're going to give that kind of charity or donate that kind of service. I think you just have to deal with the probably small percentage of people who are maybe abusing it or being rude. Because you're helping so many other people, so you kind of have to just weigh the consequences of, what was it in Star Trek? The one for the many or the many for the one, kind of just... Yeah,
the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah, so I think you kind of... I think what they're doing is a great thing. I know there was a story I read a while back about the guy who it's a pizza place in New York, and you can buy an extra slice, and they put these little sticky notes. You just, it's like a $1 pizza slice or whatever they write on it, and they stick it on this thing after the person's bought it, and people can come in and just post it off the thing and hand it in as like cash. So, I never heard a negative thing on that side of it, although I'm sure they have the same concern.
It doesn't even need to be behind the counter. If someone is able to take advantage of writing graffiti on something, then it's obviously not in the view of the workers of the establishment. So it needs to be, under observation. Behind the counter is one thing that you could do to really control it, but you could also have it where people can access it, but it's still under the view of the watchful eye of the employees. And if somebody is doing something like, drawing on it, writing negative things on it, my take is I would publicly embarrass that person as quickly as possible. That's just me, though. Like, it may not work for them, right? But I would definitely be up there. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Address it directly rather than indirectly. I think I've liked some of the other suggestions some of the other users answered with, although that doesn't really. I'm guessing that the owner started this process so they could have more of a direct effect on the community with the people who came in. But there were several who said, take the donations and then every week go donate them to the local food bank or a homeless shelter. So there are several ways you can give back to your community if you don't want to have to hassle with the in-store in-shop drama that might come with something like that. But I imagine most people who would want to start a program like this want to be able to directly affect the people who come in, and that's why they offer a program like that. So, I think you have to consider what your business is, where it's at, and know what's best for your customers and your staff, and donate based on that. I like the idea of going into a place and being able to say, I'm going to pay for an extra cup of coffee or an extra, muffin for the next person who comes in that needs it. I think that's great. And it all, it's a small little thing you can do, kind of a pay it forward thing that you don't have to think too much about. And you're not just handing over $500 or $1,000 in donations to something. It's something small. You're already buying yourself a cup of coffee and a muffin. You can do that for somebody else. So
right. As a business, we shouldn't. A business just like in our personal lives, we shouldn't feel pressured to make a public display of what we do for charity.
Yeah. And it's those little daily things anyway that are more, I think, meaningful.
That entire idea of sitting there and trying to buy my groceries and being asked for donate $1 to this, that is not a cool thing.
Yeah.
Like, that is not okay to pressure people into charity. Charity is something that needs to be reflective of who you are as a person. Not what you can get from the public display of it.
Yeah, and that's why my philosophy is, if you're going to be this generous person, you're going to offer this service, I think you kind of just have to take some of the bad with the good, and there's going to be so much more good that comes out of it anyway. So,
right.
Yeah, I think we've beaten that topic to death. I think that'll be all for us today. If you have any comments or questions on anything we've discussed, you have your own opinions, please find us on our social media. You can find us on our website, PaynePoints.com, Facebook and LinkedIn at PaynePoints, Instagram at Payne.points, and Twitter at PointsPayne. We hope everybody has a great day. We'll see you the next time.